Okay, so this okay, please let me permit. I hope you guys can hear me and we are good to go now. Shall we proceed? Let me hear from the chat. The reason why I have to mute everyone is because I know that some of you will start making noise. So let me just hear from you guys and know if okay. All right, so let's continue. All right, that's fine. So Babylon, Babylon, which is now Iraq. So in case you are asked or tested tomorrow that the Dash is also, or the present Iraq was formerly known as Dash. It was formerly known as Babylonia, the Babylon. Now, the Babylonia, we are done with the contribution of Egypt, and we will mention notable people in Egypt. One of them, Imhotep, the first physician, Hippocrates, the father of medicine. Now, let's go to Babylon, the present-day Iraq. What was their own contribution? Don't forget that at the beginning of this class, we said that the origin of Western science was Egypt and Babylon. We've mentioned the contribution of Egypt now, like the lunar calendar, the division of the year into 12 months or 12 moons, the adding of 5 days to it, making 365 days in a year. So many things they did like that as contribution to science. But what of Babylon? What did they do? The sciences of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, which is irrigation and canal construction, developed in Babylon about 18 zeros to 16 zeros before Christ. You know, they count backward before Christ. It was after Christ they started counting forward. So don't say, why is it 18 to 16? Tomorrow, when they try to switch it by saying 16 to 18, don't say that one is the correct one. Before Christ, any date before the birth of Christ is counted backward, not forward. So the Babylonians believed that the heavens were the abode of their gods. It was the Babylonians that believed that the heavens were the abode of their gods. So they also believe in terrestrial disasters such as flood, insect attacks, just like all those things recorded in the Bible. Like all those things recorded in the Bible. Oh, sorry, I didn't copy that well. This is so unfortunate. A lot of people are not here yet. Oh my goodness. So many people don't know we are on Zoom yet. Please, you guys should help them. Probably drop the link in the group for some of them. I don't have time to be doing that. I have a question there in the group for you guys. You can attempt it. Now, they also believe that terrestrial, what do you call them? Disasters such as flood. So when you ask more that terrestrial disasters are the following, except you should know that flood, insect attacks, and storms, those are just like saying natural disasters. So, okay, they were caused by their gods. So they believe that when there is flood or insect attack or probably storm, it is the workings of their gods. Thus, they studied heavenly events carefully in order to know when their gods were angry so as to pacify them. Out of these practices grew a descriptive astronomy that was the most sophisticated of the ancient world until the Greeks took it over and perfected it. The first accurate astronomical observation they recorded was the rising and the setting of the planet Venus. This is a question in TMA that the Babylonians first accurate astronomical observation was that the rising and the setting of the planet Venus was the working of the Babylonians. So far, what we've learned about Babylonia is that they have a bit of belief in gods. That is the first thing we've noticed. They have a belief in gods, and because of that belief in gods, and they believe that their God lives in the heavenly bodies. So they believe that they need to study the way the heavenly bodies interact or behave so that they will know when things are going normal there or not. so as to be able to know when their gods are angry or not. Now, the Babylonians also realized the importance of fixed units or physical measurement. Their unit of length was the finger. The unit of length in Babylon was finger, the finger. The foot contained 20 fingers, according to them. The cubit, 30 fingers. They will test you mathematically here in this course tomorrow. So in Babylon, the advances in mathematics and engineering, especially construction engineering, like the construction of canal and the rest of them, happened or began in Babylon. So there are some measurements that the Babylonians devised, like the fixed unit of physical measurement. In Babylon, then, the unit of length was the finger, and the foot contained 20 fingers. Please note that the cubit contains 30 fingers. So the measurement of weight were the grain, the shekel, and the talent, while their medium of exchange was the barley. In Babylon, what they used as a medium of exchange, as money then, was called barley. It was barley they used as a medium of exchange. 1 unit was called a finger. 1 foot contains 20 fingers. A cubit contains 30 fingers. The measurement of weight were grain, shekel, and talent. That was how they measure weight. The weight that we are now measuring in kg, grams, and the rest of them. Then it was grain, shekel, and talents. So this shows that they really had interest in mathematics and engineering. Their land was harsh and was made habitable by extensive damming and irrigation works from their 2 great rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. So river, is it Tigris or Tigris, anyone you call it, River Tigris and Euphrates were located in Babylon then. So that means currently they are located in Iraq. So mathematics thrived under this condition. For instance, they needed to calculate the volume of dirt to be removed from canals and the provision necessary for works parties. So it might be interesting to you to know that they were the first to divide the day into hours, minutes, and seconds, while the Egyptians divided the year into 12 months. You understand? And then the whole year into 365 days. The Egyptians did not succeed in dividing those months into days. The days, they also divided the month into 30 days, fine. But they did not succeed in dividing the day into parts. It was the Babylonians that divided the day into parts by saying in a day we have hours, we have minutes, we have seconds. And they also divided the circle into 360 degrees. So anything relating to mathematics, just know it's from Babylon. Anything relating to engineering, it's from Babylon. You understand? Tomorrow, that is the logic you should use tomorrow. Anything related to mathematics, engineering, just remember Babylon tomorrow. So you agree that the Egyptians and the Babylonians were observers of nature, and they gave precise descriptions. What was missing was scientific explanation. They don't know how to explain some of those phenomena, but they came up with those phenomena. So to them, all knowledge was attributed to the revelations of their gods. They believed, and don't forget that science does not believe in that. Science believes only in evidence that is provable and that can be criticized. So, but all those knowledge, all those fantastic things they did, they attributed it to their gods, that it is the workings of the gods in them. So they believed that it was the function of religion and magic to understand nature, but that man could describe it and use it. Okay, so that is Babylon. So we have a very short exercise. We have just done one of the major parts where they like focusing on in this material. That is the origin of ancient science, Western science, which is the Egyptians and the Babylonians. Well, let's try to answer this question. Now test yourself with the following question. The religious centers in Egypt were dash, dash, and dash. We mentioned 3 of them. If you still remember, Memphis, the Thebes, or what is the other one, and then Metropolis or something. I hope you guys can still recall them. We have 3 of them. the religious centers in Egypt. Okay, evidence for the Egyptian origin of mathematics and medicine can be found in Dash and Dash papyri, respectively. That was in the book written by one of those that philosophers. The name was somehow too big to pronounce. The first physician of the ancient world was Dash Imhotep. We know that one. We can record that very well. Now, a day was divided into hours, minutes, and seconds by the Babylonians. So let's not forget anything that seems to be very close to mathematics and engineering, Babylonians. So African philosophy. Basically, all you need to know about African philosophy is that that is a philosophy practiced in Africa by Africans. So from the last two sections, you have learned the contributions of Egypt and the Babylonians to the origin of various sciences. Before we discuss these contributions of ancient Greeks, the contributions of ancient Greeks to science, your attention needs to be drawn to the influence of Egypt philosophy on Greek philosophy. You should note again that in ancient times, philosophy embraced all the disciplines of study, including natural science, with the advancement and development of learning, specialized areas of study such as various sciences separated from their ancestor philosophy. Don't forget that they said that science degenerated gradually from what? Philosophy, right from the beginning of this unit. That was the first thing we learned, that science degenerated gradually from philosophy. So the influence of colonial education has made it difficult for many to appreciate Africa's contribution to the world civilization. Now, this is especially with regard to philosophy and science. European and Western civilization and philosophy owe their origins to Egypt and Babylon. Indeed, Egyptian philosophy is in the origin of Western philosophy, but Greek philosophy itself owes its origin to Africa, particularly Egypt. I hope you know that Egypt is in Africa, because most of us don't know that. Egypt is right here in Africa. So the evidence include, what are the evidences that shows that the Greek philosophy or the European philosophy, as we may have it, came from or got its motivation from the African philosophy. So we can just say that the African philosophy was like a bedrock or a grandfather to the Greeks' philosophy. What are the evidences? One, from the writings of the ancient Greeks themselves, such as Homer, Pythagoras, Socrates, Herodotus, Plutarch, and Plato, and Aristotle, etc., and modern historians such as William Stace, Edith Hamilton, and James. Oh my God, we will not bite our tongues tonight. That is the issue with this course. Names and names and names and names. All those are called Greek philosophers. So please, in case they test you tomorrow that which of the following is not a Greek philosopher, the ones we have here, we have Pythagoras, Homer, Socrates, Plato, Plutarch, Aristotle, and the rest of them. Now, the fact that Egypt is said to have colonized Greece and dominated its culture, one of the evidence that the European or the Greek philosophers drew their motivation from Africa is that Egypt was said to have colonized Greece and dominated its culture. Now, the ancient Greeks also acknowledged the Egyptian origins of their language, identity, science, philosophy, names of their gods, their rituals, etc. So, if Egypt was the one that colonized Greece, it means that most of the things being done in Greece will be something they learned from Egypt. Just like the British were the one that colonized Nigeria, you see that most of our behaviors we learned from the British, that is from Britain. So the fact that the second evidence that shows that most of the Greek philosophy was derived from African philosophy, which is Egyptian is that the fact that many of the leading Greek intellectuals lived and studied in Egypt. So they have residence in Egypt. Africans' major contributions to philosophy and philosophical foundations of the various sciences include the following. What are the basic contributions of Africa to philosophy? Don't forget that this course is history and philosophy of science. Two things combined together. history of science, then philosophy of science. We are dealing with philosophy now a bit. The world's first philosopher in history, which is Ptah in 2008, what am I saying? In 2800 BC, was an African. The first philosopher in history, the first world philosopher in history was Ptah. Now, these are places to pay attention to. This name, he was the first philosopher in history and is an African. So, another African was Upua. That is 2500 before Christ. All these people happened before they even gave birth to Christ. You can see that this record, very long record ago, was the world's first social philosopher. So as far as then, they even have social philosopher. That's wonderful. So Upua was a social philosopher. Social philosopher, Upua. Now, the Black Egyptian Imhotep, who lived 2000 years before Hippocrates, was called the Greeks. So it was called by the Greeks to be the god of medicine. I think we have mixed something here. The Black Egyptian Imhotep, who lived 2000 years before Hippocrates, was called by the Greeks the god of medicine. So Imhotep was actually the one called the god of medicine. I think we need to cross-check something here so we have proper knowledge. In the earlier version we read, it was Hippocrates that was referred to as. I need you guys, okay, let me permit you guys to unmute. We need to deliberate on this. Let's get it properly. So I need to unmute guys now so that we will be able to. Where is it now? Okay, excuse me. Permit. So you guys can unmute yourself if you have anything to say. Because I even need to know if you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I want to confirm, I want us to kind of confirm a knowledge so that we okay. Okay. One was the father of medicine. The other one is God of medicine. So it was Hippocrates that was father of medicine. This Imhotep was referred to as the god of medicine. You guys have started. If you know you place me on speaker, mute yourself. You've started. We have a lot to do. We can't be wasting time. So that is it. So we have Hypatia, the world's first woman philosopher. Wonderful. Women, you guys should not forget this one tomorrow in case they ask you. Because these are very nice exam focus. Hypatia, or I don't even know how to call that name. Well, the world's first woman philosopher. Then the Alexandria Academy in Egypt, which flourished between 300 before Christ and 200 after the death of Christ, was the center of the scientific world. It was also the first to establish the tradition of disciplinary scholarship and specialization. So the Alexandria Academy in Egypt had some intellectual giants. One of them was the great mathematician Euclid. Euclid was a mathematician. He was one who synthesized geometry in his book called Elements of Geometry. They are asking question on this man. Please focus on this. Let's read it again. We have one of the guys that were recognized as giant intellectual in Alexandria Academy, located in Egypt, then as of 300 before Christ and 200 after the death of Christ. The first person was Euclid. He was a great mathematician. And one of the things he did was he synthesized geometry in a book he wrote called Element of Geometry. So the book Element of Geometry was written by Euclid. Euclid synthesized geometry as a science in his book called Elements of Geometry. Now we have Aristarchus, was also the great astronomer and Copernicus of antiquity. That was also called Copernicus of antiquity. It is Aristarchus. Please note them. Then we have human body. No, I think this one is just an error. So Archimedes, or Archimedes as we call it then, the great mathematician who laid the foundation of the science of mechanics. He founded the Archimedean screw for raising water, and it's attributed with the doctrines of levers. So that is Archimedes' principles. Those of you that know, like if you did physics in secondary school, you remember that. So Archimedes was a great mathematician who laid the foundation of science of mechanics, and he had some, breakthrough inventing some things for water, like the screw for raising water, and then the lever system. Now we have the Erasto. Hey, Jesus. So Erastos, is it Finis? Erastophilus. Finis, okay. I will not bite my tongue tonight in Jesus' name. We have the Erastophilus, the librarian at Alexandria, who was called the most learned man of antiquity. Dash was known as the most learned man of antiquity, Erastophilus. So he also advanced the knowledge of prime numbers. These are important things they would like to dwell on. So the person that advanced the knowledge of, don't forget that what we are actually doing now is we are being proud of our African philosophers and their contribution to ancient science, and how we can say that the modern Greek philosophy or science we are having now, they drew most of their motivations from Africa. So we're not talking about great men that have lived in Africa and have done great things in science. So we have, so after Aristophanes, a librarian who was the most learned man of antiquity, and the major thing he did was he advanced the knowledge of prime numbers. We also have Ptolemy of Alexandria. They like ask questions on this man, Ptolemy. So please, let's know what he did. He was a geographer and an astronomer. His two greatest works were, so this Ptolemy of Alexandria did two major works. One, it was one of the most influential scientific work of all. Okay, what is this they wrote here now? Is it Amagest or what? They're writing A1. I was even thinking it's AI they were saying. I would have said AI as of then. AI. Okay. So, is it Almagest? One of the most influential scientific works of all ages. It showed the path in which the planet appear to move in the heavens. Okay. A detailed star catalogs and extensive description of astronomical instruments. So Ptolemy of Alexandria made advances in astronomy. One. Also, he did geographical outline, which showed the map of the world representing the curved surface of the earth, or a plane surface using latitude and longitude. So this man, Ptolemy of Alexandria, had great achievement in astronomy. That's all we can just say. He developed map, and he also developed Amagest, which is what is used to check the path through which the planets travel. That is a very great work. That is a very great work. So if you are interested in knowing more about the African origin of Greek philosophy, blah, 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 you can buy books on them and read on them. But we've touched the ones we need to touch here. So they're giving you suggestions of book you may buy and read. So we have ancient Greeks. I think after these ancient Greeks, we'll take a pause. we'll go to the mock site and we'll try to do something in the mock site and you know, to refresh our brain, then come back to read a bit and go back. Okay, Gift is raising up her hands. I think you should let me ask you to unmute. If you have something to say, just say it. I think I've given you the permission to unmute. All right, so while you are doing that, let's go to ancient Greeks. Ancient Greeks. Through the influence of Egypt, you see, the reason why we likely say that this course is very tough is that it's wide. It's talking about so many things, combining history of science with philosophy. So it's not that, in fact, history of science is a course on its own. Philosophy should be a course on its own, but they combine the two together. So you answer questions on science more, you answer questions on philosophy. So through the influence of Egypt and Babylon, and Babylonia, the Greeks acquired their knowledge of mathematics. So through the influence of Egypt and Babylonia, the Greeks acquired their knowledge of mathematics. A very important statement. Now, astronomy and philosophy and developed this to an unprecedented degree. The thing is that the Egyptians and the Babylonians, they were just doing everything, like when a layman is just doing something. They were just, that was why they were attributing all their own successes to their gods. But you notice that when the Greeks step in, they started modifying things. They started using advanced knowledge on what those people already discovered. And then they started modifying it and coming up with very fantastic inventions. Okay, please, those of you raising hands, I don't know, maybe you are not. Is it that you guys can't hear me anymore or what? Okay. The exam is 8:30. You remember in Jesus' name, don't worry. Okay, I think let me permit you guys, since it's like we need to have a conversation. Okay, so you can unmute yourself now. I want to hear from you. What's the suggestion? So you guys just want us to practice mock exam. Well, I have over 500 questions in that mock exam, if that is what you want. Well, I just think having the idea from the material like this is also good. So let me hear from you. Those of you raising up your hands, what is your suggestion? Yes, you have a suggestion. You can unmute yourself now. You are free to unmute yourself. You have something to say, unmute and speak. Because I just went to your chat now and I noticed that you guys have been complaining. Is it that I'm too fast? Don't worry, that is how you. Okay, let's continue, please. Let's just finish this Greeks philosophers, then we can
Please,
test our
let's
skill.
do the mock. I don't think anyone will pass this exam tomorrow.
Don't worry, you will pass it. One thing is that I will just tell you guys that when you are going to GS105, don't go with a mind of let me just go and get E. You understand? Go with the mind of getting A. So that your mind of getting A will likely give you C. So that is the thing. So through the influence of Egypt and Babylonia, okay, the Greeks acquired their knowledge of mathematics. So we have the science in ancient Greeks divided into two subheadings: the pre-Socratic philosophers or scientists and the Socratic philosopher scientists. They ask questions a lot on these people too. We have the the pre-Socratic scientific, what am I saying? Philosopher or scientist, and then the Socratic philosopher or scientist. What were their contributions? We've checked the contribution of African through the Egyptians and Babylonians. Now we are going to the Greeks' contribution to science and philosophy. Now, the pre-Socratic philosophers or scientists, these people were known as natural philosophers. The pre-Socratics were the one known as natural philosophers because they engaged themselves with the study of nature and the origin of the world. So the occupation of the pre-Socratic philosophers or scientists was mainly what? The origin and the nature of the world. There is a question like that in TMA. that what was the preoccupation of the pre-Socratic philosophers. Their preoccupation was what? The study of the nature and the origin of the world. I'm stressing it because that is a question I'm sure is part of the questions in that question bank, but it will not come out tomorrow anyway. So they were 10 in number, and they included Thales of Miletus. Now, this Thales of Miletus, there are a lot of interesting things about him you will learn. At least if you don't know any one of them, you should know about Thales of Miletus. A lot of questions in the question bank on Thales of Miletus, a bit on Pythagoras, then Democritus, they ask about him too, and Heraclitus too. So we have, okay, let's just list them. Thales of Miletus, Phoenician, who migrated to Miletus in Ionia. Then Anaximander, Pythagoras. Don't bother about all those big names. Don't worry. Don't. Then we have Pythagoras, Heraclitus, Democritus, etc. They were all Ionian philosophers. There is a question that usually say that which of the following is not an Ionian philosopher. I don't know how they phrase that question, but there is a question like that. So which means you need to know that these people were the one called Ionian philosophers. We have Thales of Miletus, Alexandra, not Alexander, Anaximander, then Pythagoras, Heraclitus, Democritus, and the rest of them. These men are usually called early Greek philosophers by some historians, while some others are consistent in noting their non-Greek origin. They studied in Egypt, where under the same this material they want to blow my head. There's a mix-up here. So after their studies, they went back to their respective countries to expound the teachings of the Egyptian mystery school system. So all of them, the 10 of them, all studied in Egypt under that school that they said that Egypt created the Egyptian mystery school system. So, but after study, they all went back to their own or their various countries to expand the knowledge they learned from Egypt. They were more concerned with the phenomenon of change. They observed that physical substances, matter, change into one another, but their main concern was to find out the original stuff from which all originated and to which they return. There is a question like that in exam. This one is not in TMA, in exam, that says that the main concern of the pre-Socratic philosopher was to find out the original stuff from which all dash originated and to which they return. That statement is very important. In fact, you see that they bolding the statement in the course material. It's very important to, when that is one logic. Anything you see they bolding like this, the tendency that it to come out in the exam is more than 90%. I remember that question very well. In my own set, I answered it. So the main concern of the pre-Socratic philosophers was to study the change. Was to find out the original stuff from which matter were made or were originated and to which they will return. So let's start from Thales of Miletus. We'll now start studying them one by one. We'll start from the man Thales of Miletus, but we have just 5 minutes. Hey, this is one thing with Zoom. We need to start Zoom many times over and over again. Goodness. Well, the thing is, I will not start another link. It's this same link you will use where you want to join back. So, Thales of Miletus, this is a man that did some very interesting things. He's usually referred to as the father of Western philosophy. Very important point. Thales of Miletus was the one called the father of Western philosophy. It's just 10 that I see time. He thought that water was the source of all things in the universe. In fact, the thing you should not forget about Thales of Miletus, you see any other thing we'll be reading about him, they are just redundancies. But what they will focus more, if they will ask you tomorrow, is one, about him saying, they will say, which of the following philosopher thought that the world stuff was made of water, or water was the source of all things in the universe? It is Thales of Miletus. According to Aristotle, Thales got this idea of his from saying that the nutriment of all things is moisture, and that water is the origin of the nature of moist things. Now, things that exist in the world are solid, liquid, or gaseous in form. Water, according to Thales, underlies these forms and change from one form to another. So Thales also forecast the ellipse. That is another important thing to remember about it. Apart from the fact that he said that everything in the world was made of or is made of water, he also was the one that forecasted the ellipse of 585 before Christ. Although knowledge about eclipses was far advanced in Egypt, where he studied, but he was one that forecast the one of 585 before Christ. So two things about Thales of Miletus: everything in the world was made of water, and then he forecasted the ellipse of 585 BC. Then Anaximander, we'll just touch each of them, pick out the main things they do and get out. We'll not read everything. Anaximander was a pupil of Thales in the Milesian school. So that means Thales of Miletus taught in a school in Miletus, which is called the Milesian school. And one of his pupils then was Anaximander. He learned under Thales of Miletus. He was quick to argue that water could not be the basic substance. So he argued with his master that water could not be the basics of everything. So because water is essentially wet and nothing can be its own contradiction. So according to him, if Thales were correct, the opposite of wet could not exist in a substance. That means we will not have some substances that will be dry. So to him, Thales is not totally correct. So what else did he do? Because now the only thing we've learned about him is that he argued with his master. He did not believe that everything was made of water. So on his own part, he called the word stuff the infinite something. That's all we need to know about Anaximander. He called the word stuff the infinite something. His boss called the word stuff water. Him, he called it infinite something. Anaximander's view of the word stuff is what? Infinite something. This expresses the idea that the original stuff had no beginning, was imperishable, inexhaustible, and indestructible. So when you are asked more that which philosopher believed that the word stuff was made of infinite something, which means that the word stuff has no beginning, is imperishable, inexhaustible, or indestructible. It is Anaximander that did that. And he argued and he opposed the idea of Thales of Miletus, his master, which says everything was made of water. I think we have done two great Greek philosophers now, Thales of Miletus and then Anaximander in Spupy. So we'll go to Pythagoras. This one, every one of us know him because of our secondary school mathematics, Pythagoras theorem. This one is a mathematician. Okay, well, before we start we don't have time again. This meeting will end now. We have less than 1 minute. It will end on its own now. So let's join back immediately. I will restart it. I don't want us to go and start YouTube again. I'm just tired of YouTube Wala tonight, and we have a lot to do. I would have said we should go back to YouTube so that I will not be going off and on. But let's start this again. Same link.